water service rates and fees. And we have Joe Gall, who is the Chief Utility Relations Officer, and Kathleen Leader. And I think I'm just going to pass it over to you all to get started. And if you want, you can use this one. Do you want this one better?
She's going to present primarily.
Okay,
so
so she'll.
All right, Mayor and Council, thank you. My name is Joe Gall. I'm the Chief Utility Relations Officer for Clean Water Services. I've been here at Forest Grove a number of times. You're used to seeing me. You're not used to seeing Kathy, our Chief Financial Officer. So Kathy and I have been making the rounds to our different cities over the last month or two to talk about the update council and answer questions about our cost of service study, which we have wrapped up, which Kathy will get into, and our rates and our rate proposal for next year, and then just generally open it up for questions that you might have as elected officials as one of our member cities. So with that, Kathy, if you want to get started.
Okay. Thanks, Joe. So good evening, Mayor and Council. Kathy Leader, Chief Financial Officer for Clean Water Services. And just for an awareness, so Clean Water Services, we provide the regional sanitary sewer and surface water management services for your customers there in Forest Grove. And today we're going to talk a little bit about the update to our cost of service study for our utilities, our financial forecast, and our rate projection. Next slide. So first, we're going to give some of the historical rate increases and some of the history of the rate increases within the district. We're going to give you an update on the cost of service study itself and our process. We're going to define regional and local services because they're key to really some of the costing of services in the area. And we're going to talk about our 10-year rate forecast. So Clean Water Services has a history of modest and predictable rate increases. Over the last 10 years, our annual rate increase averaged less than 4% at 3.38% over that time period. As you can see in so that mapping is of the rate we bill our direct customers. So we do regional and local services for some customers. That is our regional and local rate. So in 2026, that's $66.95 per month for an average customer sanitary and storm service. As part of the update to the cost of service study, we did take to our board just on April 14th the actual methodology that we put in place. And part of the change to this methodology is there are different rate increases depending on the utility itself and the service that's being provided. So there are different rates that could be proposed. And then they also adopted our reserve policy, which is a key piece of our financial forecast. They all come together with what rates would look like based on planning. Next slide. So the updating of the cost of service study was it was the request of our board and the member cities, including Forest Grove. And the last time we did a cost of service study was back in 2008. And there was a feeling that our service levels between the two utilities had changed and also within the regional and local program. So we went back and initiated this study back in 2021. And just recently in February of 2026, we worked with Bartell Wells and Associates, a consultant, to help finalize that study, get the forecast out, and rate development put together. Results of that study were that it was true that the local rates charged did not fully cover the local program for both utilities, sanitary and stormwater.
And for clarity, just not your local, because you set your own. When we say the local rates, it's for, you'll see a map soon. It's for the urban unincorporated areas and the small cities, Plain, Gas, King City, and Durham. We provide both regional, which I wanted to be clear about which local rates are not covered.
And so the study itself provides the basis of our long-term financial planning and rate development for the district. Next slide. So there are three main objectives of this cost of service study. First, it was to review and update how costs are allocated between the two utilities, and then also how there's allocated between the regional and local services provided by Clean Water Services. Based on those allocation methodology, we plug those into a 10-year financial plan, and the goal of that plan is to fund operating and maintenance debt service and capital costs annually, correct that local service area funding deficit for our local customers, Clean Water Services, and then use that as a basis to calculate updated rates and evaluate impact customer bill. What? So this is where what Joe was talking about. So we are charged different rates based on the service area that customers are in. So the whole green area, that's Washington County in total. The blue areas, those are the cities that we provide the regional service only to, and they provide their own local service for sanitary and storm. So that's Forest Grove, Hillsborough, Beaverton, Tigard, Sherwood, and Tualatin in Cornelius. And then you see that tan area. That's the area that Clean Water Services bills directly for regional and local. And that's the urban unincorporated Washington County, and it's the cities of Gaston, Banks, North Plains, King City, and Durham. Next slide. So what are we talking about when we talk about regional versus local? So the regional services relate to constructing, operating, and maintaining our treatment plants, our pump stations, our pressure lines, and our conveyance lines 24 inches and larger. And it also it relates to our compliance reporting and our oversight for our National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, or NPEDS permit, and including that municipal separate storm sewer system MS4 permit. On the storm side, we're also maintaining minimum stream flows and service area restoration and enhancing stream corridors in the region. Right? So for local services that the district provides, those relate to collection lines 21 inches and smaller, and it's that design, build, and maintain of those. We also have on our storm side, the design and build of our stormwater facilities themselves, street sweeping services, maintaining water quality facilities, and clean catch basins and water quality manholes on our local. So what we're showing here is based on all that cost of service study and the financial mapping. This is our rate projections that we're talking about. So this is the regional rate that we in 26. That's what we charge right now for the regional rate for sanitary and storm to customers in Forest Grove. Forest Grove has their own local rate they charge for local services, and it's at $49.39 currently in 26. Based on our projections, our financial forecast, we are proposing in our 27 budget, we're proposing a 4% increase in the regional rate. And so you see right there, the regional rate would be $51.36 a month for an average household in customer. And that's an increase of $1.97 per month. So 27 is part of our proposed budget that goes to a hearing in June, and it will be evaluated and adopted by our board at that point. But it's the basis of our proposed budget this year. Those rates that you see going out, those are projected rates. So those are rates that right now, based on the current operating status and the capital program we have mapped out over the next 5 to 10 years, those are the rates we would see and increases going out over that period of time through 2031 at $60 for.
And those are all projected currently at 4.
Yes, and so then if you, the next slide, this is going to show you then down below there, so that the 4% is 4% each year on the increase, and you see in 2027 it has a $1.86 impact on the sewer funding only. So this is sewer operations right here, and what we're mapping right here are our total costs, so operating and maintenance, debt service, and capital. Those are the bar graphs. And then the dotted line, that's the revenue collected with those rate increases. And with the 4%, we're projected to run a slight deficit through fiscal year 30 and begin to cover costs in all years beginning in fiscal year 31 in that scenario. Region. Similarly, on the surface water management side, this is a similar graph. It's showing you operating costs by year, operating maintenance, debt service, and capital on the bar graph. And then the dotted line is rate revenue with rate increases. Once again, for SWIM, we're also looking at a 4% rate increase each year. In 27, that's 11 cents per month on an average utility customer. Out in 2025, they should be at 15 cents. These proposed rates at 4% cover all costs in all years. So one of the key drivers in our forecast and our rates is our capital program. We have a significant capital program, and here we're showing a mapping over from 26 through 31 of our current CIP. That's the basis of our rate projections, and we're planning to spend in the current year plus the next 5 years over $754 million in capital projects. 90% of those are regional, and 10% are local. So a significant portion are regional in nature. Next slide. So similarly, on the surface water management side, in the current and next 5 years, we're planning to spend $11.7 million. 76% of that is regional, and 24% of that is local. And so this graph is bringing all of the overall sewer and swim program, regional and local, together, showing you in our 10-year forecast what it looks like. So the bar graph is all operating expense, debt, and capital for both utilities, and the dotted line is the revenue, the rate and revenue based on the rate increases. And do want to note that in 2026, we're projecting total overall expenses of $273 million and revenues of approximately $246 million. So in 26, we are planning to spend about $30 million in reserves, and it really relates to some key capital projects that we have going on this year that are in high construction and are cash flow going towards them. So they're spending down some of those reserves on those projects. Then our forecast is showing that we're going to run a small deficit through fiscal year 31, mainly due to the local program that for our customers, and then reserves will be used to cover those deficits. And if we do the forecasted rate increases, we would project expenses and to meet reserves and start to replenish them beginning in fiscal year 32. So you see how that line is above operating. So that's helping bring back the reserves that that had been used for the local program over that period as we phase in their rate. Okay, next slide. And so this is showing it similarly, but really focusing more on the reserves themselves. So for the blue line are our reserves, any reserves by year, and the dotted line is our target reserve. So this was the reserve policy our board had adopted recently on April 14th, and it's showing that reserves will cover deficits through 2031, and then the rates will begin to replenish reserves starting in 2032 in this model we have right now. And this is all based on current. What does the capital program look like? What does operating look like? Every year we will go in, we will update those and the actuals, and we will look at our capital program and adjust accordingly for rate, and with the goal of meeting target reserves in that 10-year period. So next steps for us, May 8th. So our budget documents are out. And they're on our website also. But May 8th is our budget committee meeting where they'll review the proposed budget, and the committee will make an action to approve the budget. And then June 9th, we're going to be taking the approved budget to the board for adoption. And at the same time, they'll be adopting our capital plan and also our rates and charges for the year. And then finally, those rates that are part of this proposed document that are adopted, they would become effective July 1st of 2026. And one quick one on that. So just for some awareness too, we are also in the middle of a utility billing feasibility study at the district where we're looking at options of billing and in particular how we could offer a utility assistance or emergency assistance program in the complexity of our system where a lot of our customers are billed by somebody else. So we're going to be looking at that and meeting with stakeholders at all the member cities and other billing jurisdictions to get input. Next slide.
I can. My communications team wanted to insert this slide. mainly for the public who may be watching, but certainly for council members. So you saw some big dollar signs in terms of capital investment, and I think it's always beneficial to actually go to one of our treatment facilities and get a tour to see what some of these improvements are in terms of the infrastructure and how much these things cost. Lots of concrete at these facilities, which is expensive. So there's opportunities at the Durham facility, which is next to Tigard High School, which is not where your wastewater goes. You can see the dates up there, but Rock Creek in Hillsborough, which is our other large plant on River Road, there's some dates in June, July, and August for the public, or any of you if you wanted to sign up to go on a tour. I usually hear feedback that these are really beneficial when you get behind the fence to really understand what we do and how we do it. It's quite fascinating, and I encourage folks to participate, especially during the summer when the weather's a little nicer. So I think that's the last slide, and we'll take any questions
Okay, any
that the
questions?
council might have.
Counselor Schimmel.
Thanks for the thorough information. That's really helpful. What I'm understanding is that the rates reflect all capital planning across the system or region. I'm curious what upgrades locally here, local being Forest Grove, are planned over the next 5 years.
To the local system that we're paying for?
Yeah,
Actually, it crosses into your area because you.
right. Yeah, what improvements are in?
Okay. So I don't have a list handy, but we can follow up specifically and get back to the council in terms of projects, both regional and local. So you get the full picture, and we can work with Jesse and his
Okay.
team.
Yeah, and the context is public education and
Correct.
relating our local benefit relative to the system-wide improvements that we're contributing to. In that respect, I'm also curious. Maybe Greg should be here to answer this. Is the characterizing the intersect between public works system development with clean water service, how that relates, or what is on our side of the fence versus clean water services?
So we actually have a separate intergovernmental agreement that governs the operations of both storm and sewer, and all of the cities in clean water services are talking about that right now. We're looking at certain updates. With respect to operations and maintenance, it's very clear in the intergovernmental agreement and very specific about what the city maintains and what clean water services maintains, and therefore what the rates go to on either. As Joe and Kathleen mentioned earlier, we do have the city levies its own storm and sewer charges in addition to clean water services storm and sewer charges, and that's because we maintain a portion of both of those systems. So I don't know, Joe, if you wanted to add anything more, but
No, I think the operating IGA, which is we just started conversations with Forest Grove that will be coming to you over the summer to finalize, really clarifies who does what, who's responsible for what. The last time our IGA with Forest Grove was comprehensively updated was 2008, so it's long overdue. A lot's changed since then, now in 2026. I think you'll see that there's an appendix to that document that very clearly delineates who's responsible for which parts of the system. And that will be helpful,
All right.
both to the council, but also to the public.
And then, just one last thing was on the billing side. I have a favor to ask because it's already been teased to us that the county might charge for services that they provide on things unrelated to clean water services, but we manage the billing for clean water services. I know that's different by municipality, but it'd be helpful for that information to be made available to commissioners on what cities are managing the billing on behalf of clean water service, so that as they're going through their whole budget cycle, they have a full picture.
Okay, I will definitely follow up.
Counselor Faulkner.
So I know that, the Board of County Commissioners is the governing body for CWS. And I was just, I'm sort of thinking about, advisory roles that, I'm looking at the advisory committee and I see that, there's representatives that are, kind of like from all over the region. But it's not clear. I mean, it doesn't seem like any government officials are included in that advisory committee. I think that's interesting. Obviously that was a policy choice made by the folks who, enter into those agreements. If that agreement hasn't been updated since 2008 and we're looking at, an updated IGA, maybe some consideration as the region changes, the sort of the makeup, the density changes, that the way that urban versus rural services are sort of provided and what those cost. And, we've got some sort of, I hate to use the term grandfathered, sort of urban unincorporated areas. And so I'm sure that there's tension, or maybe there should be a little bit more tension between the various parties of those IGAs to really sort of at least understand better how these costs are being allocated, regional versus local. 4% across the board sounds very fair. I don't know if that's true, right? I don't know if my residents here in Forest Grove, are maybe paying a little bit more than they should be. And this is not an accusation, but these are the kind of questions that maybe, having better representation, or at least, accountable representation, accountable to the residents of Forest Grove specifically. It would be good for me to have a little bit more enlightenment, a little more education on that topic. But certainly my residents, I think our residents would deserve that.
One quick follow-up on, if you were looking at the makeup of our Clean Water Services Advisory Committee, you're right, there's different stakeholder groups. There is one city rep. Sherilyn Lombos has been a long time representing all of the cities on that board. She is a non-voting member, though, however. There could be some changes in terms of the makeup, is what I'm hearing. Maybe that needs to,
At least a conversation.
a conversation should take place, especially now that we used to apply the rates the same across the service area. Now we're getting into we've got two different rate proposals basically for the 7 large cities like yourself. It's 4% for the regional, and then you do your local on top of that, and that's your decision. The customers in the urban unincorporated areas and the small cities are going to see we proposed a 6.4% total increase. So we're now looking at things, and those customers are going to see higher rates because, as Kathy alluded, those local costs are not covering, those local revenues are not covering our costs. So we got to get to where that's going to happen, and we're going to do that over a 5 to 6 year period, not all at once. So we're starting to distinguish between different areas, who represents the urban unincorporated area. So those are the kind of questions I'm hearing from you that probably is worthy of a conversation in this more complicated scenario. Thank you.
So one question I had was, given the circumstances of what happened last year with spending and accountability, how is there a plan, and how are you going to ensure ratepayers, that this increase is, I get it, I understand it, but what is that community engagement going to look like, and how are you going to reach a good group of people who might be getting their news on social media? Or, I think it's great you're opening up the facilities for tours, but I don't think that a lot of people do that. I think you'll see, just bluntly speaking, I think you're going to see like, hey, there's going to be this rate increase, and it's going to be like, oh, well, who's flying first class, or who's, what I mean? And so I'm not saying that as like, this is not a gotcha question. It's just more of like, how do you come out of that, and how do you rebuild that trust? Like, what is the plan? Oh, here.
Well, I will say that when we put our budget together this year for 27, we really did put a theme in there that we're back to we're very aware of that. We're very conscious of costs. And we tried during this budget to be very conscious. So, for instance, in last year, our actual rates were planned to be at 4%, but our board approved the 3%, and they asked us to find 1.8 million in savings in that year. That was the difference in that rate, and we did do that through positions and how we filled or utilized positions that were open. And then in this budget for 27, we were adding no new FTE in there. And then we've also leveled out our capital program over that 5-year period, and that really helps with the rate itself too, because we have had years where capital projects have moved out and they kind of spike a year, and it really doesn't make it hard to do your forecast. So we're definitely conscious of that and are really trying to be conscious of cost and work efficiently. And like I said before, each year we will go in and we will update the actuals in our forecast, and we will update the capital program, and we'll monitor capital program, make sure that it is performing and delivering, and if not, adjust accordingly.
I think you have like how is that? Are you planning on being very transparent?
I would say, Mayor, we're going to be dealing this for a number of years because people have long memories. So there's not one thing that we're going to be able to do and say, okay, we've solved this. It's going to be a continual effort, saying multiple times what we have done, what we will continue to do. As you may know, we have a new general manager about to start in late May. Rahim Harji is coming from the city of Hillsborough, and we're very excited. He's going to bring that city perspective into CWS, which I think will be very valuable. That's going to be one of his challenges in leading the organization in the new chapter. Like, how do we restore public trust? And it's not one or two things. It's telling our stories in multiple ways through our own social media, through our website, more direct conversations with our city leaders. I've been with CWS. This is now about almost my 5th year. This is the first time we've come talk to you about rates.
Yeah.
We should be here every year talking about rates in terms of what the scenario is. So I don't think there's one item that I can say magically we're going to put that behind us. It's going to be a continual effort and commitment, and to be as transparent as possible with the public to restore that trust, which we lost over the last year and a half.
Thank you. And then I hope you didn't feel like that was a gotcha. It was not meant to be
You're
at all.
not the first person to ask
Okay.
that question, nor the
Okay,
last.
cool. Well, thank you all so much for coming. We haven't
Thank you.
adjourned this work session. I'll give everyone a minute or two and then. Okay, I think we're gonna kick off with our second work session, and this one is on economic development strategic plan scoping. And we have our assistant city manager, Kim Ezel, and our economic development coordinator, Miles Glowacki. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to you, Kim.
Great. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Excited to bring forward the Economic Development Strategic Plan scope to you this evening. As I know you're all aware, this is part of Vision 2040. It was also established as one of the goals in the 26 to 28 City Council Action Plan. This is an opportunity for Council to give their feedback as this goes out to our general public and as we start getting bids, and make sure that we are structuring the plan the way that you would like to see it for when it comes back as a fully formed strategic plan. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Miles, who's been doing a lot of great work on this, as well as bringing this to the Economic Development Commission. So it's pretty fleshed out for you this evening.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. Here's our agenda for tonight. The purpose, we'll go over the Vision 2040, some background, and then we'll get into the project goals and objectives, and then I'll ask for your feedback after that section. We'll get into the scope of work, and then I'll ask for your feedback after that section, and then we'll go over next steps. The purpose tonight is to gather your feedback on the scope, the draft scope that we have for the Economic Development Strategic Plan. This plan touches a lot in 2040. It touches 3 goal areas and then a long list of action items. I'm not going to read them all, though. Next slide, please. So an economic development strategic plan. It's a long-term plan, 5 to 10 years, and a roadmap that outlines how the community will grow its economy, support businesses, create jobs, and improve the overall quality of life for its residents. And we're looking at doing an economic development strategic plan now because it was last completed in 2020. It's one of the top adopted. The economy was one of the top priorities in the 2040 vision. We've done the economic opportunities analysis. Our business and industrial climate has changed a lot in the last 6 years, and the Urban Renewal Agency and Main Street program are kicking off and getting going. Next slide, please. So these are the outcomes that we're looking to accomplish with this plan. We want to align and implement the 2040 vision. We want to identify priority economic sectors and opportunities. We want a plan that supports local businesses, workforce development, and entrepreneurship. Our plan should encourage equitable, sustainable, and resilient economic growth, and with community partner input, outline economic development roles and responsibilities. We'd like clear implementation strategies, roles, timelines, and performance measures. And we want it to be a practical decision-making tool so we can resource accordingly and work with our partners on their resourcing. We want to evaluate the feasibility of an urban renewal district area to facilitate industrial development, assess economic development incentives such as the enterprise zone, opportunity zones, economic improvement districts, and strategic investment zones. And then with community partner input, assess current workforce development programs. Next slide, please. So that was a lot. I just rattled off. And maybe we can put the other slide back on. But these are the questions that we had with the council. Do these proposed outcomes meet the goals of the council? Are there any proposed outcomes that you'd like to remove from the list or any that you would like to add?
Well, does anyone have I have one thing I want to ask, but our current urban renewal district, it's not like, I mean, did I just miss it in there? But I'm just curious if there are any, I just want to make sure that we're like using that effectively, like, and also with the new purchases, you know, that we have alignment with what will, I don't know, I just feel like I want to just double check that we are optimizing that the agency to improve the district, right? To increase revenue. And I didn't see it specifically in there. I'm really excited about the industrial renewal, urban renewal agency idea, but I also want to, you know, we have to make sure that, you know, we've done some things, but we are continuing to grow that district. Councilor Schimmel.
I think, I mean, given what we've experienced publicly over the past year and a half in terms of industrial development and the current political climate, tech, warehouse, distribution, I think it's a key factor for me that you listed was the economic development incentives, such as enterprise zone opportunities. I know this is probably implied, but maybe worth calling out is how we codify our 2040 vision plan into our development code and our enterprise framework. Just calling that out specifically, so because those are the tools that we have to, I guess, to contain, you know, the priority industries that we want to encourage in terms of jobs and so forth. So I'd be curious to see what consultant might offer in terms of how we further adapt our development code and enterprise going forward.
Any other feedback at this point? I'm not seeing any. So we can move to the next.
Okay, thank you. So this is the scope of work that we're going to issue with the RFP. And it says at the top, they can suggest refinements to the scope, but this is the minimum that we want to see back. there's 8 tasks that we'd like to see. I'm going to go through each task and then at the end ask you some more questions. Next slide, please. So task 1 is project management and coordination, and that looks like developing a detailed work plan, schedule, and communication strategy, coordinating with city staff and the designated advisory bodies, set mile markers and establish clear timelines, and provide regular updates and draft reviews. I'll just mention here that a lot of the scope of work came out of the work that the EDC did on this topic, and they added some real value to our scope. Task 2 is review of existing plans and conditions. So we'd like them to review these documents, summarize them. These are the ones that we have listed: the 2040 vision, our EOA, our comprehensive plan, our housing and land use plans, our previous economic development strategic plan, and then Business Oregon's recently released strategic plan. And then prepare an existing conditions overview that captures these, addresses these: the demographics and labor force, business and industry mix, commercial and industrial land supply, regional market context, and infrastructure and workforce considerations. Task 3 is an economic and market analysis, and that's a data-driven assessment of Forest Grove's current and future economic conditions. We're going to ask them to analyze the demographics, our labor force and workforce trends, assess our key industry sectors, employment patterns, and economic drivers, evaluate real estate and development conditions, including industrial, commercial, and mixed-use markets, do a SWOT analysis affecting the city's economic development patterns, and analyze regional competitiveness of Forest Grove's role within the broader economy. Task 4 is stakeholder and community engagement. So design and facilitate an engagement process that works with our different stakeholders, our business owners, our institutions, developers. We're asking them to workshop with some focus groups and advisory bodies, and then coordinate with our economic development partners. And then we'd like them to document how that process informed the final report at the end, so that we can see how community engagement is really affecting this strategic plan. Next slide, please. Task 5 is an opportunities assessment. Identify key economic strengths, challenges, and opportunities not already identified in our recently done EOA. So did we miss anything in the EOA, or has anything changed in the last 2 years or so? Analyze target and emerging industry sectors consistent with what we see in the 2040 vision plan. Assess what barriers are to business attraction, retention, and expansion. And then evaluate regional competitiveness and some partnership opportunities. Task 6, urban renewal and industrial development opportunities. So evaluate the feasibility of establishing a URA to facilitate industrial development. Talked about that earlier. Evaluate opportunities related to the city's urban renewal area and development ready project properties. And I think this is what you were talking about, Mayor. Assessment of existing conditions and opportunities within the URA. Evaluate the URA tools to help support the economic development goals. And then development of strategic guidance for the use of the URA investments within the context of a broader economic development. Task 7 is implementation of the plan, and we're looking for recommendations about actions and policies that translate strategies into actual implementation framework. So we're looking for the who's going to be responsible, the phasing and timelines, estimated resource needs, and performance measures and evaluation methods. And finally, the task 8 is the final plan and adoption. So prepare a polished draft and final economic development strategic plan. Come present findings to city staff, the advisory bodies, and the city council, and then provide materials for public distribution. so that we can highlight the work that we've done and the work that we have to do. Next, please. Yes. Next. So again, the same policy questions. Does this meet the goals of the council? Are there any work items that I'm missing or any work items that you'd like removed from the plan? Mhm. You got it. Yeah. I think I understood what you were saying, that as we're developing this plan, can we do the timeline so that things that are timely now get done first so that they address the conversations we're having as the rest of the not wait for the final plan.
They probably, sorry. I'm sorry to everyone on Zoom watching. I'm not going to repeat myself though, but basically the question was about prioritizing some of the plan, and I apologize. Moving on. I told you, Jamie. Okay,
Okay, thank you.
cool. Thanks. Okay, I'm going to adjourn this work session of the Forest Grove City Council. Going to give a minute or so for people to relocate. Jeez, microphone. Grove City Council, no public comment will be taken, and the council will take no formal action. And I'm going to turn it, the topic is city discussion regarding federal activities. And I'm going to turn it over to our city manager, Jesse Vanderzanden.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Before going too much further, I would like to introduce our new Chief of Police, Dave Marzilli.
Yes,
Dave,
born
welcome
in
to your
last
first
meeting.
work session with the City Council. The topic today is city discussion and ongoing city discussion about federal activities. If you could go to the next slide, please. Next slide. So really the purpose of this work session is to provide an opportunity for council to discuss and respond to issues relating to federal immigration enforcement. One of the comments that came up at the last meeting to follow up on at this work session was to review and discuss state legislation regarding immigration to determine what, if any, impacts it may have on the city. And so you'll see in some subsequent slides some bills that we have summarized that were passed this past legislative session. Next slide, please. These are some partners that we continue to work with. As we reported earlier, we did do some grants with Adelanto Mujeres, Centro Cultural, and the Resource Center with the Fairbanks School District. Some other partners are Portland Immigration Rights Coalition, SOAR, Innovation Law Lab, and ACLU. And locally, I know Indivisible has been pretty involved in this issue as well in terms of reporting and monitoring some of the activity. Next slide, please. A little bit of background, and this was, of course, in 2025. The city declared a state of emergency, appropriated $50,000 to community nonprofits. I just mentioned earlier. Declared Forest Grove a sanctuary city by resolution. Sent a letter to Washington County to discontinue the use of Flock, which is a surveillance system. Distributed a public flyer on how to identify a Forest Grove police officer. That was also done by neighboring communities, Cornelius, Hillsborough, Beaverton, Tigard. Immigration resources in all facilities. We really kind of revamped our city website, providing a lot of different resources on there. Next slide. Following up in 2026, the City Council codified the Oregon Sanctuary City into City Code. We've had staff training on how to respond to ICE if they are on public property. We sent a letter to the Attorney General requesting legal guidance. We've done a couple public records requests to the Department of Homeland Security regarding ICE activity in Forest Grove. We filed one in 2025 and another one in 2026. We went over council roles and responsibilities in the emergency operations plan. We recently completed marking all of our non-public areas. So if you come into City Hall, the library, the aquatic center, you will now see signs that say private area and delineate those areas that are not open to the public. Staff produced a training video, and we have now, we haven't quite trained all employees, but we are getting very close. We have trained all of the supervisors. We sent a letter to the Oregon legislature regarding state legislation. And last, a letter to the district attorney regarding the national effort entitled The Fight Against Federal Overreach, and encourage the district attorney to look at the website and join. Next slide. So this really gets to kind of the one of the things to talk about at this particular work session are some of the bills that passed in the Oregon legislature this past session. You may have read some press releases that were sent out in early April. There was a package of 8 pieces of legislation that passed and have subsequently been signed by the governor, so these are now law. They do have different implementation dates in some of them, so not all of them are immediate. Some are several months out to allow communities to be able to respond to them. So the first one was House Bill 4079. It's regarding school safety, and specifically it directed schools and colleges, so Pacific University here in Forest Grove School District, to create alert systems for notifying parents and students of immigration enforcement on campus, and requires verification of legal authority before granting access. The next piece of legislation was House Bill 4111, or civil case protection. And what that does is it bars the use of immigration status as evidence in a civil lawsuit. It also makes it illegal for employers to retaliate against workers updating their work authorization. The next piece of legislation was House Bill 4114, and that was called the Protect Your Door Act. That allows individuals to sue the federal government or other law enforcement agencies for $10,000 to $100,000 in damage if they enter private property without a warrant. And then the last bill passed by the House, or at least sponsored by the House, was House Bill 4138, the Law Enforcement Accountability and Visibility Act. And that requires that all law enforcement officers operating in Oregon be clearly identified, and also bans the use of masks or face coverings with exceptions for undercover or medical reasons. And we'll go into that one a little bit more in a subsequent slide. So some of the bills that were sponsored by the Senate was Senate Bill 1538, educational equality. And that prohibits discrimination based on immigration status and education, requiring schools to admit all eligible students. Senate Bill 1570, the Health Care Without Fear Act. It requires hospitals to create protocols for interactions with federal immigration enforcement, including designating safe areas within the hospital. Senate Bill 1587, data privacy, restricts public agencies from sharing personal data with third parties if that data will be used for federal immigration enforcement. We are currently looking into that legislation to find out kind of more specifically what that means. We have read the text of the bill in detail and are seeking some clarification currently on that piece of legislation. I would add that the implementation date for that, I believe, is July 1st. And so we have a little bit of time to kind of sort through this. We're also working with LOC on specifically how that might apply to Forest Grove and other cities. And then Senate Bill 1594, the OIRA expansion that directs the Office of Immigration and Refugee Advancement, or OIRA, to create model policies for responding to federal action. Next slide, please. So with regard to House Bill 4138, the city is in compliance with Section 1 regarding identification. Currently, the city policy states, quote, "The regulation nameplate or an authorized sewn-on cloth nameplate shall be worn at all times while in uniform. The nameplate shall display the employee's first and last name," unquote. And the policy also states, "Whenever on duty or acting in an official capacity representing the department, employees shall display their department-issued identification in a courteous manner to any person upon request and as soon as practical." So currently in Forest Grove, we require that a nameplate be worn at all times and that it be presented upon request. So there should not ever be a time when we have a police officer that is not identifiable. The second part of the legislation has to do with prohibiting face coverings, and I might turn this over to the chief. Currently, I don't believe we have a policy regarding face coverings. I believe we are working with Lexipol on creating a policy. So.
Correct. Policy currently doesn't cover wearing face masks one way or the other. Lexipol is a service that we work with that helps create our policies, and they regularly update with legislative changes. They'll update the policies, so we're just waiting for that. But I don't, as a matter of practice, we don't wear masks unless it fits those requirements during a tactical situation or something like that. So I don't anticipate it being a difficult mission for Lexipol to create that.
And then next slide, please. So Senate Bill 1587 states that it restricts public agencies from sharing personal data with third parties if that data will be used for federal immigration enforcement. Specifically states that it does not apply if disclosure is required under public records law or by court order, or if the information is available to the general public. As I mentioned earlier, we are seeking guidance from the city attorney to determine what changes Senate Bill 1587 may require of the city. There's also some, if you read the bill in detail, it looks like it may also point toward what they call data brokers as well. And if we have services or contract any services with data brokers, so we're looking at that angle as well. I would expect that there'll be, quite a bit of effort put toward kind of interpreting and defining and figuring out exactly what the legislation says. So, and then depending on what it does say, it may require a code change with the city. We just don't know at this point. And I believe that concludes our presentation. So happy to have any questions.
Any
Mayor, but I'll turn it back to you.
questions or comments? Yes? Yeah, okay. Councilor Schimmel.
Well, a couple of areas of concern has been enforceability and reporting. And for context, I testified on a couple of the bills with the yes, the intention is right, and it needs to demonstrate enforceability with structural backing. As I can assess, the latter is not true for much of this legislation, and even by one of the sponsors' own admission in an interview after, saying that it was primarily for litigation at the victim's expense. So my concern is that the public is going to be very disappointed by legislation that is not enforceable and there's no structural backing, particularly concerned about the school district trying to provide verifiable reporting. So that's a key concern, is we'll have to go back and re-educate our public. On the reporting, the only reliable source we get is PERC so far that I can tell, where I get reports of our local observers declaring that there's been unverified observances, but there's no reporting of those observances. Certainly they don't call the police to report anything. So there's this discrepancy in what the public might communicate either through their newsletters or through social media versus what is actually verifiable. I think a recent example was this confusion with the presence of DEA on a narcotics arrest, and a note I received suggesting that FGPD was present, assisted, and may have violated sanctuary law, which illustrates some education required just on that law itself, that it doesn't preclude assisting on warranted situations. So I think there's some necessary to have, I don't know if it's updating, not just updating our website, but doing some outreach maybe to the Indivisible group or through the rapid response team, just to make sure there's some understanding of what is enforceable with respect to, specifically with respect to ICE. We certainly control our own law enforcement agencies. So, and those were just some thoughts that I wanted to express.
Yeah, I think my understanding about the situation that happened last week is that, you know, people who have been legal observers or meager watchers have seen cars with that license plate and personnel. So I'm working as ICE. And then there was reports that the person was taken to the detention center in Portland. What I'm hearing though from law enforcement is that sometimes different federal agencies swap cars around. Or I guess different agencies in all areas might, but in this situation, that potentially, you know, this is a report where my understanding, you should correct me if I'm wrong, but this is, you know, the information we were told. And so I think that to belabor your point, you know, this is a really complicated situation, right? So you have people who are trying to protect community members watching, and then there is an element of like, who do you trust, who do you not trust? And they have their records, and so if they see a car, they're going to believe. But then from what I'm hearing is that potentially that car could have been turned over to DEA to be used, because if Department of Homeland Security knows that it's been marked as a vehicle used for immigration, they would dump it to a different agency. I don't know if that's true or not. Yeah, go for it.
I don't know what the federal agencies do with their vehicles, but just in my experience as a matter of practice, if you have unmarked vehicles, they could be rental cars, they could be pool vehicles. We've just a vehicle that's in a motor pool that anybody can check out or anybody can use. We have borrowed cars from car dealerships, used cars, and when that car gets burned, they ditch it and get another one. So if someone says, oh, that's a detective in a car, then they'll swap it out and get something different. I don't know if that's what federal agencies do, but that's what my experience with local law enforcement does with the vehicle, with it. Also, for a long time, other agencies will go into other jurisdictions to do investigations, and they don't always share when they're in that community doing an investigation. It's not required. It's not even normal protocol unless you're going to be asking for assistance from somebody to do that. So when federal agencies or other local agencies or statewide agencies that do enforcement, they kind of move around and they don't tell local law enforcement. In this case, I think the confusion was there was a state E-plated vehicle that is publicly owned vehicle, like all the state vehicles are registered. That was another agency's law enforcement officer working with the DEA, and I think that's probably where the concern that it might be Forest Grove Police was involved in that, because our police cars have the same E-plate, just like every other police car in the state has that E-plate on there. Did that clarify? Okay.
Thank you. Any other comments or discussion items? We have some time. Is there, there was consensus last year, earlier this year, to have a monthly work session. And so since we have the time now, is there another topic that you would like to bring forward for next month's meeting? Taking ideas now, or go ahead, Counselor Schimmel.
Well, just I don't know if it's another work session. Just want to reinforce the public education or outreach on what we've learned from the legislation, what is practically enforceable, and I don't know if it's clarifying some of the information on to delineate a FGPD. Now, I guess it's a vehicle from government or a federal agency vehicle might be another step. And then the reporting is always going to be a dilemma because even if ICE picks up again, that was always a problematic before because not everything, police weren't being called or 911 wasn't being called, and not all of the engagements or enforcements were reported through PERC. And like I mentioned earlier, I particularly worry about the school district where 100% of the time before ICE was not on campus. So nothing changes for school districts in the future. So how do we, I want to wrestle with how do we reconcile that with our partners, with the public, with the legal observers, with the rapid response system. And I know part of it is building trust, ensuring people have trust in our local law enforcement, that they don't have to doubt that you're breaking sanctuary law. They can assume the best and actually help us provide additional information to help us. And those are just thoughts. I don't know how that translates into discussion or just what staff might discuss.
Yeah, I guess I'm going to ask for more clarification. Do you think that there's a work session on those topics, or more like that you want to update information on our social media or website on those topics?
Yeah, at this point, it's not a work session unless there are new circumstances that either staff want to report or that come up. So I'm just providing feedback for their
next
office
staff.
delivery.
Okay. Yeah, I'm wondering if there's a comfortable, I mean, I don't know if it's comfortable or not, but do we think we need to continue with the once a month work sessions, or do you think we should pause on those and reinstate that if we need to have a work session? Any thoughts on that?
I think before, when we talked about having these work sessions, we were going to put them on the agenda knowing that we could cancel them instead of trying to throw one on the work session because all of a sudden we decide we need one. So I'll go along with the majority, of course, but I think leaving them and then just canceling if we don't need one.
Okay, well, I guess we'll just go. I'm just thinking that, so we'll start planning. I mean, I'll just be like pretty honest. Like, we meet Wednesday to plan the next meeting. So I guess, so do we just want on the first meeting of the month during council comments or mayor comments? I mean, I'm also trying to thread this needle of giving staff enough time to plan, right? So I've been liking having them know the topic a month out because there's also other things that they're working on. So do we think for May, do we need to have, go ahead, Councilor Faulkner.
Depending on the answer to this question, we noted that we sent a Freedom of Information Act request, but I don't know that I've received any information about what the response has been.
Did we get the public records back from?
We have not received any public records from the Department of Homeland Security.
But did they acknowledge our request?
They did acknowledge receipt of the request. Yes, they did.
Did they
And they sent us a receipt of request essentially, but they did not give us a timeline of when they would respond or anything like that. So But they did acknowledge your receipt, yes.
Okay.
And we've sent 2 requests. Anytime we've heard of any alleged ICE activity in Forest Grove, we've sent a request to DHS.
Is there a timeline that they have to adhere to? I mean, what's our timeline for public records?
I'll look into that, Mayor. I don't have a definitive answer now, but they did not give us a timeline in their response to us.
Months ago.
I'll have to verify with the city recorder. The first request was sent months ago in 2025. It was right after, it was the day,
The day
after
after.
the work session. And then the second request was sent in 2026. I'll have to check with the specific date with the city recorder. But it was basically just re-upping. Let me check with the city recorder and get back to the council. So we hadn't heard a response, so we submitted another request. So, or we hadn't got a response, excuse me.
Maybe at the very least, our next work session on this can stay on the agenda for next month, and we can ask both for a little bit more research on, the time within which they're supposed to give, at least maybe give us a window of response. I mean, I don't know what the federal regulations say about, when they should at least give us an estimate of how much time it would take to respond to our request.
If the council would like, I'll just, the city recorder is currently out, but when she gets back, I'll have her find the answer to the questions and send it out to council.
Okay.
So, not a problem.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, any other comments? Is that fine with everyone? Keep it for next month. Okay, sounds good. So I'm going to adjourn this work session and we will reconvene in 20 minutes. Like. Good evening. I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Forest Grove City Council. Will the city recorder please call roll?
Counselor Marshall?
Here.
Counselor Martinez?
Here.
Counselor Schimmel?
Here.
Counselor Valenzuela?
Here.
Counselor Falconer?
Here.
Counselor Gustafson?
Here.
And Mayor Wenzel.
Here. We acknowledge the land on which Forest Grove is located rests on the traditional village sites of the Atfalati, a tribe of the Kalapua who originally inhabited the Tualatin Plains, including Forest Grove. They are now part of the Confederate Tribes of Grand Ronde. Will the council and the audience please join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Testing. I might just hold it because it's so far away up there. So you all picked a great night to come to our city council meeting because we are going to honor and recognize one of our best employees, Leo Cortez. Could you please come and join me? Thank you, Leo. Leo, you get to stand in the middle, though. I see you trying to come on the side, but we want you front and center. Okay. I want to share a little about Leo with all of you. Tonight marks 20 years of public service for Leo Cortez, working for the city of Forest Grove. Congratulations, Leo, and thank you so much for your service. Oh, thank you. Like, we have the best staff. I'll keep going, sorry. Leo has earned a bachelor's degree in industrial engineering and a master's degree in civil engineering from the University of Colorado. Prior to his tenure here, Leo worked for the Las Vegas Water District. They have water there? Crazy. Okay, Leo's current role in the engineering department is twofold. He provides GIS services by analyzing all the data for water, sewer, and stormwater, finding and correcting errors, then submitting the corrected information to the new utility network platform. Correct? Okay, phew. Additionally, Leo provides inspections of civil infrastructure for new development to assure what is being installed is consistent with the design drawings by and city, county, and what other codes? Clean Water Services and the state. A big thank you to Leo for his dedication and service for 20 years to the residents and the community of Forest Grove. Do you want to come take pictures? No, no. Okay. Want to say? Okay, I'm going to hold it. Go ahead.
It's just a privilege to be working for the city for this time frame, 20 years. It was just like yesterday, but it's today. So I would like to say thank you for the recognition.
You're welcome. And we appreciate all you do for Forest Grove. Thank you. Okay. I think, do I need to hold it? Should I just pull this out? Okay, I'll just hold it. I don't know how to pull this out. Okay, we have 2 proclamations this evening. Vietnamese American Remembrance Day, and then followed by Small Business Week. Whereas on April 30th, 1975, North Vietnamese forces captured Saigon, the capital of the Republic of Vietnam, effectively ending the Vietnam War. And whereas 300 soldiers from South Vietnam and 58,000 soldiers from the United States, including over 700 Oregonians, sacrificed their lives during the Vietnam War. And whereas the 90,000 Vietnam War veterans who call Oregon home have endured hardships that left an indelible mark on their lives, families, and communities. And whereas the state of Oregon has welcomed tens of thousands of Vietnamese refugees and their families who have shown resilience, strength, and perseverance in overcoming adversity to become a vital part of our society. Whereas the Vietnamese American community in Oregon plays a crucial role in fostering cross-cultural understanding and appreciation, and has contributed significantly to the cultural, economic, academic, political, scientific, and artistic landscape of our nation. And whereas the 50th anniversary of April 30th, 1975 serves as an important moment for reflection on the sacrifices made by the previous generation of Vietnamese Americans, and recognition of that day ensures that the lessons of history will continue to guide future generations toward greater peace, freedom, and democracy. Now, therefore, the City Council of the City of Forest Grove does hereby proclaim April 30th, 2026 as Vietnamese American Remembrance Day in Forest Grove, Oregon, and urges all citizens to join in the recognition of this cultural heritage celebration. For the small business? Okay, I'm going to do Small Business Week as well. So whereas America's strongest economic growth in almost 40 years has been driven by resilience of small businesses that, despite a worldwide pandemic, continue to pioneer innovative solutions to our country's greatest challenges and create opportunities for families and workers. And whereas small businesses remain the heartbeat of our communities and the American economy, employing more than half of our nation's workers, inventing and innovating to launch new technologies and create new American-led industries, enriching our main streets, making parts and products in America to fuel our supply chains, and building our nation's infrastructure. And whereas the City of Forest Grove recognizes and values the dedication and entrepreneurial spirit of small businesses that are the cornerstone of our local and state economy. And whereas the City of Forest Grove supports and joins in this national effort to recognize and support small businesses to ensure that our community remains as vibrant tomorrow as they are today. Now, therefore, the City Council of the City of Forest Grove does hereby proclaim May 3rd through May 9th, 2026 as Small Business Week in Forest Grove, Oregon, and urges all citizens to acknowledge and celebrate the achievements made by the small businesses locally and nationally. Thank you. Do you like it up here better, Council President? Okay.
Okay. Proclamación. Considerando que el crecimiento económico más fuerte de Estados Unidos en casi 40 años ha sido impulsado por la resiliencia de nuestras pequeñas empresas, que a pesar de una pandemia mundial, continúan siendo pioneras en soluciones innovadoras para los mayores desafíos de nuestro país y crean oportunidades para familias y trabajadores. Y considerando que las pequeñas empresas siguen siendo el latido del corazón de nuestras comunidades y la economía estadounidense, empleando a más de la mitad de los trabajadores de nuestra nación, inventando e innovando para lanzar nuevas tecnologías y crear nuevas industrias lideradas por estadounidenses, enriqueciendo nuestras calles principales, fabricando piezas y productos en Estados Unidos para alimentar nuestras cadenas de suministro y construir la infraestructura de nuestra nación. Y considerando que la ciudad de Forest Grove reconoce y valora la dedicación y el espíritu empresarial de las pequeñas empresas que son la piedra angular de nuestra economía local y estatal. Y considerando que la ciudad de Forest Grove apoya y se une a este esfuerzo nacional para reconocer y apoyar a las pequeñas empresas, para garantizar que nuestra comunidad siga siendo tan vibrante mañana como lo es hoy. Ahora, por lo tanto, el Ayuntamiento de la ciudad de Forest Grove por la presente proclama del 3 al 9 de mayo de 2026 como Semana de la Pequeña Empresa en Forest Grove, Oregon, e instamos a todos los ciudadanos a reconocer y celebrar los logros obtenidos por las pequeñas empresas al nivel local y nacional.
Thank you, Council President. Okay, now we're going to move on to item B. I'll give Council President a minute to get back to her seat. Okay. So now I'm going to move on to item B on our agenda, public comment. Public comment is time provided for anyone wishing to speak to the City Council on an item not on the agenda or on the agenda but not scheduled for a public hearing. I'm not liking my microphone. Comments are limited to 2 minutes unless additional time is granted by the presiding officer. The public comment period shall not exceed 30 minutes unless a majority of councilors present vote to extend the time. Zoom attendees may use the raise hand option to be called on. I think that's it. Let me just make sure. Okay, so we have one person signed up for public comment. Danielle Wentworth, do you want to come up to the center table? Please and thank you. Is that microphone on, Jamie? Do you think? No? Okay, you can use that one. Okay, perfect. Thanks.
I'm going to do my best to keep this within 2 minutes, but I'm probably going to go a little bit over. My name is Danielle, and I am a resident here of Forest Grove, and I was present at the detention in Forest Grove on the 21st, last Tuesday, I think it was. I brought a poster here to kind of give you some visuals. I don't know if you can see them from there. So I am here as a concerned citizen who wants to bring your attention to a horrifying detention that occurred on Tuesday, April 21st at 7 a.m. I want to mention that this detention was in collaboration with at least DEA, Oregon State Police, Tualatin Police Department, and ICE or CBP. This was also in conjunction with another arrest that happened in Hillsborough. This detention endangered the lives of our students and families who rely on our public transportation that provided to them by the school district. At 7:27 a.m., a black Dodge Durango with Oregon plate 711 JFA that has been seen entering and leaving the ICE detention center several times, including mere hours after this detention at 10:20 a.m., sped off from this house in Forest Grove with the detainee in the back seat and ran through a stopped school bus sign. The bus was stopped with lights on and its stop sign deployed. At that time, there were several kids, including a small child and their presumed guardian, ready to cross the street to board the bus. This is absolutely horrifying and illegal and proves how dangerous it is to all of our community members to have this secret police out and about on the streets, breaking our laws and not being held accountable. I cannot imagine what would have happened if the guardian of that child was not paying attention, and cannot imagine what would have happened if our student was not holding on to that guardian. This is unacceptable, and I urge you as our city council to come up with a solution, because as much as our bus buddies are out doing the work, we do not have the power to be at every bus stop or to hold these agencies accountable. I have already asked Mayor Wenzel to look into receiving the footage Midco sent into the Forest Grove Police Department. I also want to dig a little deeper into what happened that day, and here are some facts. Despite what you have been told, ICE or CBP was present at both of these detainments. We know the Hillsborough detention is connected to this one in Forest Grove, according to the post made by the Seattle DEA. This was then shared by Hillsborough and Forest Grove police departments on social media. We know the arrest that the DEA in Hillsborough made resulted in the man being sent to the Tacoma detention facility, according to his family that was able to finally locate him later that day. He was also placed at the time of his arrest in a known ICE and CBP vehicle that has also been seen entering and leaving the ICE facility in Portland, including at 9:20 a.m. that same day. This doesn't make any sense for a criminal law enforcement arrest and goes against our city and state sanctuary laws. The family of the detainee in Forest Grove shared with us that the agents involved in the arrest unplugged all of their security cameras in their house before they trashed it. That evening, the family was still not able to locate their loved one. This all leads us to believe that sanctuary policies may have been violated, and I am not okay with funding illegal law enforcement activity with my hard-earned tax dollars. I hope that you as counselors and everyone in this room are also not okay with our tax dollars going towards this. I want to emphasize that officials are lying to us about what's happened or not being transparent at all. There was a post made by a counselor stating that it was not ICE and a DEA arrest only. If this was you and you still refuse to believe that ICE or CBP had anything to do with this arrest, then you are also the problem and the reason this secret police keeps getting away with this unlawful activity. If we don't hold them accountable for their actions on our streets, how are we supposed to enforce those laws for every citizen? They are not above the law. Please hold them accountable. Thank you.
Thank you. No one else has signed up to give public comment. Is there anyone else in the audience who may have missed the sign-up sheet and would like to give public comment? Is there anyone on Zoom who would like to give public comment?
There are no hands raised.
Great, thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to item C on the agenda, which is the consent agenda. Items considered routine that are adopted with a single motion without discussion. Councilors may remove items prior to the motion to adopt. Any removed items are discussed and acted upon following the approval of the remaining items. What is the wish of the council?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, the consent agenda was moved by Councilor Falconer and seconded by Council President Valenzuela. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, the consent agenda is approved in a 7-0 vote. Moving on to additions or deletions. City Manager, do you have any additions or deletions?
No additions or deletions. Thank you, Mayor.
Any proposed by councilors? Seeing none, we will now, we're right on time. We will now move on to presentations. The council will hold questions until the end of each presentation. Our first presentation of the evening is from our Mayor's Youth Advisory Council students that attended the National League of Cities student delegation trip to DC. So if I could get Maya, Annie, Hazel, and Morgan to come up. Well, just bring another table. I'm going to get you hooked up. Do you guys have, yeah, I'll get you a chair. Should I not? I'm like their teacher. I'm like, let me get them hooked up, but I guess I will stay up here. They just come right up to the front. Do you guys have, did you have anything? You just, okay, but who did you send it to? Okay, well, when did you send it to me? But I was okay. Yeah. Hello. I'm not getting none of my emails coming through. Hang on. Let me try another one. I'm going to send it to you, Jamie. While I'm doing this, can you introduce yourselves and we'll see how this.
Yeah, hi, we're a group of representatives from the Forest Grove Mayor's Youth Advisory Council. My name is Hazel Kiblinger, and I'm a senior.
My name is Annie Goff, and I'm also a senior.
My name is Morgan Tremblay, and I'm a sophomore.
And my name is Maya Andrade, and I'm also a senior at the high school.
Did you guys all introduce? Okay, so listen. Let me talk in the microphone. Okay, let's pretend you have the PowerPoint and you guys can just chat. So the deal is they sent it to for people in the audience and watching on TV, they sent it to my school email. And I have boundaries and I don't have my school district email on my city and personal phone because I have 2 jobs. I have to keep it straight, which is fine. So you guys can just go ahead and talk.
Let's just do that.
What do you have going on, Hazel? Yeah, send it. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yes, I think I do.
Perfect. Problem solvers.
Everybody's patience.
Happy birthday, Hazel.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's also Hazel's birthday.
Yeah, my 18th, so that's exciting.
Yeah, it's a bit. Yeah. Oh wait, can you guys? Is this through your school district email or your personal one? Can you send? Are you guys like? Do they allow you to send outside of the organization?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe high school. I do. I'll just probably forward you the email. I was like trying to figure out why I hadn't gotten your email. Yeah, okay, do we think we should just start chit chatting? Where are we at here, people?
Oh, we're just sending it.
Okay.
Well, as we are sending that, we just wanted to show pictures because, like, it's really awesome to get to tell these stories, but it was so cool to get to experience it and all the things we got to see and do. We just really want to share that with you guys. So thank you for your patience.
Yeah, I think it's just sending it. I think that's what it is. I mean, if anything, we could just, yeah, okay, perfect.
We can't get it?
No, looks like it's not sending. It might be. So this was a 3-day trip to Washington, D.C., where we were supposed to be part of league of conference. Unfortunately, this year we weren't part of that since we couldn't secure tickets in time. However, we still had a really great experience. Annie, do you want to talk about a little bit about what we did?
Which was really cool because that's something that you see a lot of pictures about and hear about, but it was really cool to see it close, and that was something I didn't think I would be able to experience. So it was really great. The most inspiring thing that we saw for me was probably the African American Museum, because it showed that, like, even though there are a lot of sad pieces of our history, like, I found it really inspiring to want to make changes to our policies.
Another big what we got to do was kind of network with people. So we couldn't really network with other students from the Oregon area, but instead we met with a bunch of representatives of the state, Congress members as well, interns, lobbyists, and a bunch of different people, which was also super cool. It got us a real glance into what a government looks like at national level, kind of federal level. And we also kind of got to see how there's a bunch of tiny parts that go into making a law and making a policy and also changing different things at city level, but also state level and then federal. I explained. We got to meet really cool people that told us about these really cool jobs that we had no clue existed, and we probably didn't know what they were at some point. And what was really cool was that we got to meet with them for a lot longer than normal. For example, we met with Congresswoman Bonamici for a good 30 minutes, when most of the other groups got 5 to 10 minutes. And here we discussed policies, like questions with students. You guys.
Yeah, I think getting to meet with Bonamici was the most powerful part of the experience. It was really exciting to get to just be in her office and be in space, but also to see her and how she towards us. We were sitting in her office. She made sure that all of us had the opportunity to share the things we wanted to bring up, and it was really empowering from our communities, back ourselves and our loved ones, to see her and speak with her, get her on. I felt very much like she for us. So that was really empowering. I got to.
Yeah, I thought, like, specifically, I always had an interest in women's rights, and talking to Bonamici about all of the, like, next steps in women's rights really, like, empowered me to want to do more for my, like, community and speak up about more things. So I thought that was really being able to talk to Bonamici and talk about all the issues that are pressing in our community now.
I think this trip was also extremely important because it gave the youth of Forest Grove a chance to see different things as we talk about and opportunities. But I think as we move forward, the biggest reason why we think this should continue is because I truly believe that the kids are our future, right? The generations that are coming along are the generations that will lead us. And this experience opened, at least for me, a lot of doors, and also just kind of revealed that there's so much more things I can do outside my community to continue to protect the rights of our community and just the people of America. So I think that was super cool, and I think that as time goes by, I'm sure there are other people who are looking for an opportunity like this where they can jump into real world experiences, and that's why I believe that to continue moving forward.
It was also really cool with the lobbying process. When I came to this trip, I was like, I don't know what that means. Like, what are we doing? Like, very confused. But getting to meet with lobbyists and speak to them, and then getting to do that ourselves, hearing, speaking up and hearing people from all over our area, how those conversations had was really meaningful. And it was really cool because I know a lot of us are in AP government class. We got back literally the next class about lobbying. So not only did it help us have a better understanding, but I believe that us getting to share our experiences and what we learned also helped the other kids in our class have what our teacher was instructing. So it was really cool to immediately see those kind of impacts that I wasn't even expecting on this trip, which was just so cool. I just could never imagine.
I feel like I learned also gained real adaptability and got a really extensive therapy and sit in to see like and even though what
I think another thing that I thought was cool is being in all those one conversations with the like higher up really taught me personally that these things take a lot of time. They're not immediate actions, so you have to like start now if you really want to change in the future generations. So that's what I took from it. Was you have to like, keep pressing and like you gotta take all your time and take it, and you gotta really enhance all of your opportunities.
Exactly. One thing we promised to bring back was kind of civic engagement, to bring back something for our community. I think we kind of brought just a lesson that it might seem like we're stuck, especially now at those higher up levels. But the truth is that there's so many other steps where we can get involved. If we're not directly speaking to representatives or congresswomen, we can write to them. We can write to different lobbyists to ask about policies. We can write to interns that have a more deeper scope into what's going on. And so that was really good to bring back to our community and let people know that although sometimes we feel like things are stuck, like Morgan said, it takes time, but there's ways that we can connect with, people that actively work every day to make change.
Cool.
I think I just speak for all of us by reaching out with so much gratitude. This is something that none of us could have done on our own. It happened just ourselves. So getting this opportunity that just wouldn't have been otherwise, something we all will take with us, these lessons we've learned, and also just as such a fun thing to experience, as well as all the things we do. Amazing time, feeling empowered. Just want to express so much gratitude.
Exactly. None of this could have happened without all of you guys and giving us the opportunity to and caring for the students to see how this will go. We appreciate you guys. We've learned a lot. We've gained experience. And we can't wait.
Thank you. And I'll open it up for questions, but well, yeah, I'm not gonna. I'll let them go with questions. Counselor Faulkner.
So it sounds like you did a lot, you experienced a lot, you went around a lot of places in the city. And I heard a rumor that you were getting pretty good at public transportation and navigating the metro. And so I'm hoping that you can tell me a little bit more about that experience and if you enjoyed it, and if you learned anything and maybe brought some ideas home with you on improving infrastructure.
I think the first thing I see is that you're out with the mayor. We'll be out running around until 11 p.m. And the trains are confusing, but you'll get used to it. I guess a good 30 minutes into it, since everybody's very busy in DC and there's no stopping in that city. The infrastructure was extremely organized. Everything kind of had a specific time. People knew where they were going, how they were going to get there, where to stop, and stuff like that. It wasn't too confusing. I think, again, after a couple minutes, you kind of understood. Bringing it back to the community.
Something I think that's really cool about it. We're sitting on the transit, our business outfits are just going back from dinner. There's kids getting out from middle school and high school and college, and there's people in the most expensive outfits I've ever seen going back from work, and all in between, and just how the community just is kind of all connecting. And I just think something kind of cool about it.
Awesome.
Any other questions for the group? Council President Valenzuela.
Have a comment. You are so well spoken, so articulate that you didn't really need a presentation. Okay, I was very impressed because you didn't even have notes. So I'm very happy that you were able to experience this, and I am certain that that will help you to make a difference in the future, to have a positive impact in the communities.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you. I had the best time ever as well. I've gone to DC alone. I've gone as a city councilor. I've gone as a mayor. I've taken 35 students on a field trip to New York. I mean, multiple times. But this was completely different for me, and such a good opportunity for both my worlds to like collide. I mean, my worlds collide all the time as a teacher and a mayor and a mom, but I don't know. I just had the best time with y'all. And I think that I was really proud, and every environment you went into, you were prepared, you spoke, like we did this. I mean, and speaking about Counselor Faulkner, I mean, it got to a point, right, where I was like, get us there, right? Like, you guys know how to get us there. So even just those life lessons of like, now you can travel and you have the confidence to use public transportation in large cities and know that you can do it. I would like you to send your presentation so they can see the photos. I have the photos on my phone, so I know. But I think that they would like to see it. And, and I just hope that whatever, there's something that you take from, your time, not only in DC, but in Forest Grove. 3 of them are seniors, so they're going to head off to adulthood soon. And so take the things you've learned here and the experiences you had to, make someone else's life a little bit better. Right? Okay, cool. Thank you all so much. Hazel, are you off to birthday dinner now? Or what do you?
Annie took me out.
Oh, nice. Very nice. I like it. Yeah. Do they like it? Thanks. It's a team effort. Okay, our next presentation is our Economic Development Commission. You all do not have to stay. You can leave. Our Economic Development Commission annual reports, and I'm going to call up our Economic Development Coordinator, Miles Glowacki, and the EDC Chair, Tim, is it Butelman? I ask this each time. Butelman. Thanks. I should trust myself sometimes. Okay, go for it, gentlemen. Wait, you make it funny.
Mayor and councilors, thank you for having us here to give our annual report. Skip through the main part on the vision plan. I was trying to think just an hour or so ago how long I've been on this commission. It's been 14 or 15 years, and I've seen a lot of growth and a lot of change. It's been really great to see. With this 2040 vision plan, increase the volume and diversity of commercial business development, update the city's economic development strategic plan, which in my tenure, I think we've done 3 times already. Increase industrial development, explore the creation of economic improvement district, strengthen partnerships with local small businesses, support workforce development programs, develop a long-term vision for the Main Street program, which over the years has really come out really strong. Partner with property owners to attract businesses, incentivize programs to support, retain small and local businesses, encourage and attract more events to downtown. Years ago, we didn't have our Main Street crafts, all the farmers market. Thank you. Not.
I was trying to follow too. I was like,
what's that?
I was like, craft beer.
Well, we've got some of that there already. Encourage and attract more events downtown. Increase wayfinding signage for downtown parking, which we've already done a great job doing over the years. Update tourism strategic plan. Develop mural corridor public art cultural district celebrations. Explore exterior and architectural design standards to create a visual identity. Pursue grants to support tourism, placemaking, identity, and planning. Expand opportunities for affordable housing development. Let's go to mission overview. Purpose of the Economic Development Commission is to encourage broad-based community representative and advise the City Council on public policy issues affecting Forest Grove and council-adopted goals and objectives. The EDC advises and makes recommendations to the City Council on economic development policies and issues that support advancing the economy and prosperity, to include the URA and the EDC's recommendations with grant programs and whatnot that we've gone through more in this 2 iterations. Goals and objectives. The EDC has established the following goals and objectives: provide and promote a strategic plan, provide oversight and review of economic development, make marketing strategies and products, enhance communication and understanding of economic development strategies, and build relationships between Forest Grove public sector, community, and business community. Act as a forum for sharing information on best economic development practices, current issues, resources available to communities and businesses. Encourage connection, coordination with other regional, state, and national organizations working on the direct benefit of economic growth and enhancement for Forest Grove's economy. Respond to additional matters relating to economic development as requested by City Council, and advise and make recommendations to the City Council on economic development policy. And on the EDC, we've been very grateful to have the opportunity to make recommendations, grant programs, and work with you counselors as URA members to help brighten the community. And it's been received very well by the business community, and I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of that in the near future should those funds become available. The accomplishments in 2025: reviewed and made funding recommendations for a 2025 Building Improvement Grant Program, reviewed and made programmatic recommendations for the Building Improvement Grant Program, reviewed and offered suggestions to the Economic Development Strategic Plan scope of work, reviewed and offered suggestions to the Tourism Management and Marketing requests for qualifications. Current work plan: engage with the city's Economic Development Strategic Plan consultant to create, edit, and present a plan to City Council. Review and make recommendations on the Building Improvement Grant Program and Storefront Improvement Program marketing materials. Review the grocery store location economic analysis. Just on a side note, I feel like we've been talking about grocery stores for a long time. I'm sorry, I just had to make, I got it. Review a boutique hotel economic analysis. Review and make funding recommendations for the 2026 Building Improvement Grant Program, and engage with business community to identify opportunities and weaknesses in the Forest Grove economy. As an aside, as I've mentioned before, I've seen this city grow in leaps and bounds. I was talking to one other member, like, who would have believed a couple of years ago we'd actually get a Starbucks in town? That was just monumental. It just met all the metrics of demographics for Starbucks to come. And so Starbucks comes, so comes Marathon, so comes a national oil change company that will be coming soon, and some other logistics company opportunities that may be coming down the pike soon. So would enjoy any questions or comments that you all have.
Any questions? I guess I just have one question. Do you think, within the EDC, the representation on that commission is based, like, there's criteria to meet? And so I'm wondering about vacancies on EDC, and if you feel those, has the committee looked at those to make sure we're still on point, with where we're going and what we want, and are those the right spots, or, how are we making sure that we're represented on that commission?
Right. I remember I was talking with Brian Pohl a long time ago when we were talking about committee size and whatnot. And the EDC is kind of a different animal in that there's representation criteria that fits small business in one realm, or fits a small restaurant in another, manufacturing in another. So all of them have different criterias that they come to the table with making the EDC what it is. And we do have some holes. We do have some holes that Miles and I need to fill, and the new co-chair, Tim.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Tim.
I just want to say thank you to my volunteers on the EDC. They're a great group to work with.
Oh, great. Well, thank you. And the council liaison is okay. Just all right. Thank you, Tim. Okay, Miles, I think you're going to stay where you are.
Okay.
Okay, so next on the presentation is Economic Development Program.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. I'm Miles Glowacki, the Economic Development Program Coordinator for the city, and this is a presentation on kind of the economic landscape in the city today, and then what we've worked on this past year. Next slide, please. Again, the vision plan touches a lot on economic development. Again, the list, you've seen it 3 times tonight. Next slide, please. These are the 10 indicators that I'll go over tonight to kind of highlight how we've been measuring our economic growth over the past, well, I found records going back quite a bit, but so I found records for the last 5 years, and there's some before that too. Next slide, please. This slide represents our population growth. We continue to grow at 27,241 at last count, and I think this slide's from the U.S. Census. Over that 5-year span, our growth rate's been 3.17%, and our annual growth rate's about 0.5%. Next slide, please. This slide represents unemployment. You can see the peak unemployment during COVID, and we're seeing a slight uptick over the last 2 years in unemployment. And the numbers I've seen most recently are still hovering right around 5.2% for the year. The median household income in Forest Grove continues to rise. It's still behind Washington County as a whole, but it's above Oregon State. It's currently at $87,933. Next slide, please. The Forest Grove poverty rate remained in the 15.3 to 0.4%, about 3,900 people, both higher than the national and state averages. They're listed there. The poverty rate includes university students, which tends to skewer the percentage upward for cities with universities. And I think on some of the other slides, our university population skewers some of our demographics as well. Next slide, please. So this slide represents all the employed people, not just working in Forest Grove, but that reside in Forest Grove that are employed. And this is a different type of work that they're engaged in. The majority of people are engaged with a private corporation. I did find it interesting that 15% were engaged in government at some level, and 9% at the private for not-profit. Next slide, please. This slide is of all the jobs in Forest Grove, how they're broken out. And there's roughly 6,843 jobs represented in the city. I think the big ones that stand out to me are accommodation, food service, healthcare, educational services, of course, manufacturing at 10%, and retail trade at 10%. I think those are both strong numbers of our economy. Next slide, please. So this is people employed inside and outside the city and the kind of work that they're engaged in. Management, business science, and art occupations are the largest category, and then service occupations. And that makes sense when we look at the mix of businesses that we have. Next slide, please. This represents Forest Grove residents' educational attainment. High school graduates is about 88%, and that's not our high school graduation rate. That's people in Forest Grove with a high school diploma. And then bachelor's degree or higher at 36%. Oregon as a whole is at 91.8%, and our bachelor's degree is pretty on par. Next slide, please. This one, I pulled the Forest Grove business license list. We have 918 active business licenses in the system, and 628 of those have a Forest Grove address. So, as you know, a business that does business in Forest Grove needs a business license, even if they're not physically located in the city. And I thought this would be a good metric to track over the years to see how the number of businesses kind of changes and grows. And then housing. We currently have nearly 9,800 housing units. 338 are vacant housing units, and 62% are owner occupied. Median sale price in 2025 was just over $5,000. And then our industrial development. Industrial vacancy remains near zero. 78 acres of 290 total industrial acres that are available are entitled or under development. There's 25 acres that are currently for sale right now in 4 different parcels. And there are 160,000 square feet under construction and another 635,000 square feet entitled for construction, indicating very strong demand for industrial parcels. And then I just wanted to touch briefly on the enterprise zone. Talked a little bit earlier about it earlier this evening, but the enterprise zone is a property tax abatement program for industrial properties and certain hotel motel facilities. This map shows the industrial properties in Forest Grove, and nearly all of them are within the enterprise zone. And it works in exchange for expanding into the enterprise zone. Eligible businesses receive total tax exemption for 3 to 5 years, depending on the program that they opt into. And it's intended to be a job creation tool. And so part of the criteria for the expansion is job creation and investment. Next slide, please. Our commercial vacancy remains near zero. We have 5 acres of 62 total commercial acreages entitled or under development. There's 15,000 square feet under construction, which is all Forest Grove School District property, which is considered commercial institutional under our code. Approximately 50,000 entitled for construction, indicating strong demand. And commercial real estate remains strong. I've seen a lot of listings pop up this spring for commercial real estate property. I think that shows that a lot of investments coming to Forest Grove. I've also found that Forest Grove is really limited on office space, and there's a lot of people who want an office in Forest Grove. I get calls frequently looking for office space, and haven't been able to locate a lot. So I think that's interesting that people want to move. I think some of them are moving out of the central city, closer to where they live, and would like to have their businesses there, their offices. Accomplishments this year: completed, presented, and adopted the economic opportunities analysis. We presented on the Main Street program. We awarded multiple tourism event sponsorships. Held a work session on the tourism program, and council increased the transit lodging tax by 1%. We implemented an updated IGA with Washington County to collect the TLT on our behalf. We secured funding for the Economic Development Strategic Plan and drafted an Economic Development Strategic Plan scope of work. Next slide, please. In the Urban Renewal Agency, we completed purchase of the Woodfold lot and hired a property management company. Continued client relations and management of the theater property. Finished up the downtown glow up. Approved 7 storefront grant applications. And then under the Building Improvement Grant Program, we received 9 applications in 2025 and 7 in 2026. And then we made, with the URA board, a lot of improvements for next cycle. And currently underway is a boutique hotel analysis and a grocery store analysis, and those will both be ready. I just want to thank all the partners that helped make this work possible. That's a list of most of the people working in this field together to advance Forest Grove's economic development. Next slide, please. Are there any questions or comments?
Okay, questions, comments? You have one? I saw the head nod, and then you.
I was curious on the income piece. Does the data delineate income from jobs inside of Forest Grove versus externally?
It didn't. I can look into that though and see what I can pull out. The Oregon Employment Department has pretty massive database and some really, really smart people that can pull information out for us.
Be curious to see where that income growth stems from, if from the industry we're encouraging here. When we did talk about the enterprise zone framework earlier, about aligning it with our economic priorities, so that sounds like that's an imperative. And then I think I also noted earlier about the IGA with Washington County on the TLT. You know, they're teasing the idea of charging in the future to cover a budget deficit. So I trust that we'll watch that with our commissioners as they go through their budget cycle, and they're well informed of the various services that both sides provide that benefit the same taxpayer. Discovered that as they were starting to tease that out as a way to help with their deficit. And then just lastly, I know you've got a lot of partners to touch base with. One other suggestion is the Oregon Business Institute. I think they are the statewide Chamber of Commerce, and I've found that they provide a lot of valuable input on economic trends, competitiveness, workforce development, and such. So,
Thank you. Counselor Faulkner.
One thing that kind of occurs to me as we're, embarking on this economic development piece, and this sort of relates to the work session or the earlier presentation on that, on developing that plan. And the, rising income can be seen as sort of a positive thing. It can also be an indicator of displacement. And so one thing that I'm keeping top of mind as we sort of embark on these approaches, to both talk about, like we're going into our comprehensive plan and housing production strategy, housing capacity analysis. We're also talking about economic development. I'm glad they're happening at the same time, or at least somewhat parallel tracks, because I worry about, one downside to attracting a bunch of new business and new jobs is that you can unintentionally create upward pressure on your limited housing stock. And so I want to make sure that, as we are having this conversation on council, staff is having unsiloed conversations about those two levers, because those are two really important things that I think the city, can really have a big impact on. And so making sure that, one hand is talking to the other as we're sort of tackling these really big, important problems for the community. So there's tension there, and I think we can get it right as long as we're really intentional and mindful of those, of those opposing pressures.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? I don't see any. Thank you, Miles.
Thank you.
And our last presentation for the evening is from our library director, Colleen Winters, and it's about the IGA with WCCLS. Thank you for waiting, Colleen.
Good evening.
Hello.
So yes, we're here this evening to talk about the IGAs with Washington County, and I have, thanks to the city manager, I have a presentation that we've worked on together to inform you about what's happened so far and the next steps in this process. So for the 2040 plan, of course, when you think IGAs, when you think library and IGAs, I think you think about community and accessibility and connection. And those are the things that I highlighted from this slide. The purpose tonight is to, again, inform you of the status of the process for these IGAs and to tell you about some of the changes being proposed. The next slide is sort of a history. I apologize for this glasses thing. I wasn't going to tell you, but I'm having cataract surgery this week, and so my eyes are weird. And so I take my glasses off and I put them back on. So I apologize. Here's a history of WCCLS, and I would have you note that Forest Grove was one of the founding members of WCCLS, of which we're very proud. And many of you already know some of the background about WCCLS. You know that it's the Department of Washington County, and that it answers to the Board of Commissioners. The funding, of course, is approved and appropriated by the Board of Commissioners and comes from an operating levy that also, so from the general fund as well as an operating levy that funds WCCLS. The advisory boards of WCCLS are twofold. There's an executive board, which our city manager sits on, and then the newly named library leadership group, which was for many years the policy group, and there was a recent decision to change it from policy group to library leadership board. That would be library directors, and that's the board that I sit on. So just a reminder that it's funded by both a county general fund transfer and a voter approved levy. And you know that last November, voters did in fact approve another WCCLS levy. And then each city then helps fund library operations and are responsible for all the costs associated with the building and construction. We'll talk a little bit more later on in the presentation about expectations about member libraries. Next up, have you note that there are two IGAs for WCCLS, one being about operations and one being about governance. And over the last couple of years, Jesse and I have been engaged in a process to review, discuss, debate, even Kim got in on some of those, all things WCCLS, the structure and governance, the funding, the operations, all of that has been under review for the last 2 years. So the governance speaks to the governance, in fact, how decisions are made and the relationship of the Board of the Commissioners, the Executive Board, and the Library Leadership Group. This IGA is perpetual unless a member ceases to be a party to the cooperative operating agreement or if 3/4 of the members terminate it. That's important. The other IGA is about the operating agreement, and that speaks to, and again, we'll be talking more about this in a minute, base service levels, service boundaries, insurance, indemnification, all that good and important stuff. It's a 5-year agreement, and it's tied to the operating levy. All right, now we get to the good stuff. Proposed revisions. Some of the changes that are being made are purely housekeeping. They're just some cleanup, some clarification of language and so forth. However, one of the cleanups that I think was very important is information about decision making, how that works, who's in charge. I think that was very important, and we got that done. Again, roles and responsibilities were discussed at length, and those are listed here, the executive board, the leadership group, and then the relationship to those groups with WCCLS. And when we talk about WCCLS, we're talking about the organization that is housed in Hillsborough, in offices in Hillsborough. That's the reference here. The staff and the staff of WCCLS. On the last bullet on this page speaks to something you're aware of, but is very important, is one significant role that's in the works, which is the change to centralized collections. We note that it's referenced in the IGA, but there's no definition of how it's going to work. And that would be because there is no definition of how it's going to work. The county has in fact hired a, how is it named here, a contractor to help make this transition. Forest Grove has had its first meeting with the contractor, and that's about all we know so far. We'll keep you posted. The next page talks about some more proposed revisions, and I think the third bullet speaks to an important new agreement, which is base service levels. And again, we note that Forest Grove already provides all of these, but not all of the member libraries did. So being open 45 hours a week with free access computers and have policies in place, that's now a requirement to be a WCCLS library. There was much work done on documenting service boundaries and service populations. I think if I'm remembering correctly, this was our city manager's favorite discussion. It was lengthy and confusing, but we got it done. Next, the funding formula and amounts for all member libraries. And I think what we wanted to highlight here is that there is a change to the IGA, the language that speaks to this, which in the past, you can see the sixth bullet down speaks to the existing language in the current IGAs. The change, the proposed change is potentially, I think we think it's more transparent. However, it doesn't have much specifics about how it's all going to work. You can see how the change from the current language to the proposed language, it says how the money is going to be distributed, but it doesn't really talk about how much money or what were the specifics of that. And that's a very important change. Lastly, the next steps are outlined here. There needs to be multiple, there has been multiple reviews and conversations regarding these IGAs. There's another one scheduled for a week from Friday, and that will be an opportunity for the representatives of the member libraries to provide feedback from their city council presentations and any questions, concerns that have been identified from their organization. And you have questions?
I do. Well, or a comment. I'm very concerned about the funding and the lack of framework for increase in assessed value. Jamie, I don't know if you want to, can we go back to slide? Well, you know probably what I'm talking about, right, Colleen? I think that's a slippery slope, and I don't understand why they're taking that framework out for an increase in assessed value. What that allows, that is so dangerous in my opinion, with a commission that has a $10 million deficit, repeated deficit, as since I've been mayor and been working more with the county to make up for that deficit. They've taken from MISTIP, which was voted on by community members in the 80s for transportation, because they say that they can and they have this deficit, and so they're going to take it from transportation for their general fund. So there's that, like they have a deficit, and I think I'm not okay with this at all. I think there needs framework. Furthermore, without framework, without having something in the IGA, what if there's no protections for library, right? If you have a commission that doesn't want to fund it or thinks that's not essential service, I don't know. I just think that if there's an increased assessed value, there just needs to be some sort of framework. And I'm curious why there isn't and what is being done. Like, is there any other, am I the only one saying this? Is there traction from other cities saying like, hey, we want to bring this language back, this framework for assessed value increase?
I don't think I can speak to that.
You can't speak to that?
I mean, I don't know the answer. is
Oh,
what I-
okay.
Well, I think a lot of the cities are doing presentations just like this over the next couple of weeks. I think we're one of the first cities to probably approach their governing council with some of the new language and the new framework. And so we'll just, I don't know that I have a better answer for you at this point, Mayor, but the language is different. And as Colleen mentioned, this is being presented to all the various city councils. And then there's going to be a meeting with the executive group and the leadership group the end of next week. Is that correct?
A week from Friday.
A week from Friday, to just receive feedback from the councils and how what the presentations were, and then go from there.
Well, I'd like to flag this part of it. I think that just seems, I'm not comfortable with ambiguity or like that there's not framework for an increase in the assessment. Or I just think it's weird that they had it before and now they're taking it out. So I just, something about it doesn't feel great to me.
Yeah. And if,
Go ahead, Council President.
Thank you, Mayor. Just the whole thing, it's really concerning. The one thing that is really the most concerning thing to me, besides the funding issues that may arise, is losing the autonomy the library has in terms of collection, for example, of being able to purchase, your staff being able to make the selections, because all communities are different, and there are different needs, and you and your staff know the community well and know how best to serve it, and that that has always been a big concern, just losing that ability to stock up your own library for your community.
Are there any? Go ahead, Councilor Schimmel.
I want to concur with everything you said, Mayor. And this is just a conversation at this point. They've already demonstrated why they're doing this with MSTIP. And I think the consequence for us going forward as they continue this behavior, it certainly compromises their notions of transparency and accountability. But they're passing their deficit on to cities by siphoning money from discrete levies. I mean, that seems to be a travesty to the voters, but they're going to pass that deficit on to us in those discrete ways. And I don't know what our recourse is other than shaking a stick at through their budget process.
We'll talk about that during my mayor's comments about the budget process. But I didn't mean to cut you off. Do you have? But I don't want to end on I want to share this. It's not about the levy or WCCLS, but one of my leadership students today said that he's skipping track practice because he had to go to TLC and film the commercial for summer reading program. And I just thought it was so cute. He was like, well, I have like one of the leading roles, Miss Wenzel. And anyways, and I was like, oh, so you have to go work with Lily. And he's like, I love Lily. He called Lily the GOAT, greatest of all time. So I wanted to share that with you and take it back to your staff. So thanks, Colleen. Okay, and now I think this is like one of the first, it's a rarity, but there are no public hearings, ordinances, or resolutions. I think Jamie scheduled that on purpose. She's like, Mariah, we're not putting any of those things on the agenda. So we're going to move to council communications. So I'm going to start with our council president.
I have nothing to report, Mayor. There have been no meetings since the last time.
Thank you. Councilor Falconer.
Very short list. Had the chamber meeting that was pretty uneventful. I guess I will just mention a couple things because it's sort of related to the JWC Barney Reservoir meeting as well. I think the chamber has set up workshops to be responsive to local businesses who might be grappling with the new system for recouping tariffs that the federal government illegally took from them. And so if you need help you finding all of your documentation and using that portal to request those funds be returned to you, the chamber is, chamber can be a resource to you. Because apparently it is pretty complicated and difficult, and there's even confusion over who's allowed to apply. Relatedly, the tariffs and the unnecessary wars are, of course, impacting costs of materials for JWC. So everything from building materials to all the chemicals that they need to use to make sure that we have safe drinking water. The price of all of those things is going up, and it's reflected in the various contracts that they have. So those are the two things that I.
Thank you. Councillor Gustafson.
Okay, the PAC meeting that I attended, they reviewed the strategic plan quite a bit that day, and they did discuss the garbage cans that are falling apart. Apparently, yeah. So they had intended on moving forward, looking right for the photographs or some sort of art, and they said that the garbage cans are not holding up. Okay.
We're pursuing
That's what we
warranty.
talked about, yeah.
Just brief update, we are pursuing warranty issues associated with the manufacture of some of the garbage bins. We are seeing some failure reports, and it is concerning, and we're following up with the manufacturer.
Cool. So one of the things I know, just based on the response after the garbage cans came out, and I know, there's lots of different opinions on the garbage cans. I'm so glad that there's so much space in them to put our garbage. But if we are going to move forward with a different style, a different, company, it might be a good idea to talk to, at the very least, the business owners and poll them to see, what they're looking for, or maybe we can have a couple choices and say, hey, these are the choices. And at least have the downtown businesses look to see what they like, and push it out to the community if we feel that is going to be a good move for us. But I do think that the downtown businesses, especially, I hear a lot of, well, nobody asked us, because we didn't. So maybe a little bit more communication there. A question that they did ask was if donations were acceptable. So if somebody wants to donate to the PAC, not fundraising, but right, there's just a canister and donations, are they able to receive donations and accept donations? So that was a question that they had for us to answer. Is it the same as fundraising, really,
I'd have to reference the council rules. I believe I'll have to reference the council rules. I think the answer is yes, they can receive donations. I think the council rule referenced that if they were going to do a fundraiser and do actively fundraising, that they would have to make an estimate of staff time. There's a form to fill out, and that would have to come before city council. Whether they can just accept a donation that's made without a request, I can double check. But I know they've done that in the past. So.
Okay, and just to confirm, so if one of the stations at the market had a jar there that said donate to the Public Arts Commission, that would be acceptable. I would like a consensus so that we are all on the same page. Somebody needs
I don't know the answer to that. If you give me a moment, I'd like to look into it and then get back to you. So.
Okay, perfect. And then the next thing is the Family Peace Center. Their open house is on April 30th, and it's going to be amazing. So the event goes from 4:30 to 7 p.m. at the Family Peace Center, and the ribbon cutting will happen at 5 p.m. There will be snacks, there will be networking, there will be a tour of their new building and everything that's going on inside. So I really encourage everybody to attend that event. On a less happy note, for me anyway, Rachel Schutz is retiring from her position at the Family Peace Center. So at the end of this year, I believe it is, her executive director position will be somebody else, and she's moving with her family. They're going on to, other goals and objectives for their family. So This year is her last year with the Family Peace Center. I know. But yeah, so it's a good opportunity to see her too. And I think that's all I have.
Great, thank you. Counselor Marshall.
Forestry meeting, we had a representative from the Nature Conservancy come out to demo a tree canopy measuring tool that they use for the Portland region, and they want to include Forest Grove into that region. So they'll be coming out with more information on that, but it was a cool thing. They actually broke it down to specific spots in the city, demographic, everything was broken down with a fine-tooth comb. So it's going to be cool when they can move it out to this area, but they're looking to do that within the next few months to kind of work with the forestry committee to kind of get that going. And that was the only meeting I had, and that was most of that meeting was that tool that they were going over.
Cool. Great, thank you. Counselor Martinez.
So I attended the Words of Hope and Healing National Crime Victims' Rights Week event that was last week. It was very good. There was a young woman who shared her journey from abuse that her and her daughters suffered, and the healing and the hope that they found with the organization. It was very good. And yes, the event this Thursday, and then attended the chamber event this afternoon where Mayor Wenzel and Mayor Dolan shared all the great things that our cities have done. That's it.
Great, thank you. Counselor Schimmel.
Thank you. Related to the TV Highway Transit Project, TriMet's general manager and executive director of capital projects visited Forest Grove last week, and Brian Pohl and I met him, and we had an opportunity to do a site walk of the 47-8 intersection, and particularly the marathon project that had blocked the lane of traffic and had pedestrian work around, and that was an unfortunate illustration of pedestrian hazards during construction. So it was helpful for the general manager to see how important it was that during construction of the TV Highway project that we provide adequate barriers that emphasize the dangers inherent in that particular intersection. We also took them on a drive through the whole Forest Grove TV Highway corridor from east to west, so they got to see all the various stations or parts of that corridor that are important to us, namely U Street, and Brian came prepared with an illustration and a list of all the projects in the next 3 to 5 years and when and how they happen. So that was informative for them to understand how their project intersects. And we also mentioned the decoupling Pacific Avenue study, not knowing if and when and how that happens, but that would certainly affect their project. So that's that related to that project. And then I attended the Transportation Access Management Plan focus group, and I'm not going to steal any thunder from Jesse, but there's a woman who lives in the Quince apartments just north of that intersection I mentioned, and she was testifying to 4 near misses in the recent past where she was almost hit in that northbound slip lane, and the drivers were visibly aggressive despite trying to flag them that there was a pedestrian there. So I've had some interaction with Jesse and Greg about communicating with ODOT about striping that doesn't exist, signage and such. So that's something I'm going to keep appealing for, and maybe reach out to our legislators if we don't make progress. But that's one of those areas where they fear for their lives. And I know there's projects forthcoming, and I hope we can find a remedy for getting pedestrians completely away from that intersection. But it seems like it continues to be a persistent safety risk.
Sorry, can I just I ask you want to get pedestrians away from the intersection? I'm confused.
Well, what pedestrians are asking for is that we improve the safety there.
Okay.
I think he wants like safety.
So they
Avoid
can
collisions, not eliminating cross.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I
Yeah.
just wanted to make
I apologize. Well, I guess what I've in trying to study the circumstances there's not much to improve the intersection for pedestrians apart from tunneling underneath it. The signage and striping will at least provide some awareness. That if there's some way to get pedestrians completely away, for example, when we put in the mid-street crossing that between 47 and Mountain View, that is a part of the solution to get pedestrians over to a safer way to cross. But they still have to traverse to that intersection to get over. And as soon as Marathon gas station is activated, that's more vehicles going in and exiting. And in all cases that drivers are going westbound, they're looking left when they entered the slip lane, or when they're exiting Marathon, they're looking left again. It's just a concept of, can we get pedestrians away from that intersection because of increasing dangers there. In the meantime, can we do basic things like striping and signage to accommodate, and even if it warranted using city resources with the permission of ODOT just to get it done. So that's something that I want to explore with the staff, and then they can come back to us and ask for something of an official decision if we need to spend money just to get that done sooner. Does that help?
Yeah, I still have concerns about when you eliminate sidewalks, when you eliminate crossings, and you ask people, especially people who have, mobility challenges, whether they've got devices or not, what you do is you end up adding, up to, quarter of a mile, half a mile, even a mile, if you're asking people to go from an intersection where they live directly across the street, especially to a place where they might need to purchase food, to go all the way down to a mid-cross to add essentially a half a mile walk. I've been in the situation that you're talking about. I understand that concern. To me, the answer is not eliminating crossing opportunities for pedestrians. The solution is making those situations safer, and there are ways to do it short of tunneling or bridges. And I would just say that this is maybe not a forum for debate. I would just suggest that you definitely don't have I am not on board.
We're not
eliminating
debating.
crossings.
I didn't say eliminate. I'm saying it's an unsafe environment if there's a ways we can get pedestrians around that intersection, but I did not say eliminate.
Okay, when you say removing pedestrians from that crossing,
I
and
said
putting
get
them
pedestrians.
and moving them.
Yeah, I didn't say remove. I didn't say eliminate. I said getting pedestrians away from the intersection. So
I'm not understanding that phrase, because that to me says removing
if there's an
pedestrians
alternative pedestrian safe path
that is not in
around
the
it.
intersection, that is half a block or longer.
So it's not eliminating. Didn't say eliminate.
Okay, we're gonna. Just because we're going back. Okay.
Yep.
Councilor Schimmel, did you have any other? Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Jesse for the city manager. Did I get everybody? Yes, I followed my list.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. In response to the previous question about the Public Arts Commission, just read to you from the council rules. It says, board and commission shall not fundraise unless authorized by the council. So what I would encourage is maybe have the PAC check with the staff liaison and and see if we might be able to fill out the form and find out a little bit more about what the PAC would like to do, and then go from there, if that sounds all right.
So what would the question be that I am asking? So that I'm
Well, I think if the PAC is looking to fundraise, I think what the council rules pretty clearly say is it needs to be authorized by council. And so if they are looking to fundraise, I would encourage them to work with the staff liaison to fill out kind of whatever requisite material there needs to be and bring it before council to get authorized to do so.
So just to clarify, have them just bring a proposal to allow them to receive donations, because it isn't, I mean, it's kind of like, what's fundraising versus donation? Fundraising to me is an activity, but it can be, tomato, right?
Well, I think in the scenario you said, they would actually be putting a jar out asking. So that's not a donation, right? Like a donation would be like someone, for some reason, says, hey, I really like this program, and it's not requested, right? But like, to me, when you were giving me the scenario, I'm like, okay, I'm fine with them receiving donations. But then the scenario was that they were actually going to ask for donations. And to me, that's fundraising. And so I think there's a form what I'm understanding is that they just need to fill out the form.
Yeah.
And then it would come before council.
And it gets put on the consent agenda.
Yeah.
Sure.
So.
That works.
Just a few things, a couple dates coming up. May 1st is the start of the annual diaper drive at the police facility. It's 3 weeks long, so if you have any diapers that you would like to donate, please bring them to the police facility starting May 1st. May 6th is the start of the farmers market, so look for that next week on Thursday. And then on May 9th at the Forest Grove Library, there's going to be a preparing and guiding your teen driver safety event. Again, that's May 9th at the Forest Grove Library. A few other things. I mentioned earlier that Public Works will be applying for 2 grants and is still working on 2 grants. One is the Safe Streets for All for improvements to TV Highway east of 47. The other one is for a Building Resilience and Infrastructure grant that's for the city's additional water reservoir. That's up on Watercrest. It was mentioned earlier in a work session, but to give a little bit more of an update, city staff will be meeting to review a draft Clean Water Services intergovernmental agreement that's regarding Clean Water Services operations. And then we'll be meeting with Clean Water Services about it. Some of the topics that were brought up during the work session with regard to the billing structure, et cetera, those are part of the IGA, and those are going to be topics of discussion. So we will be working with Clean Water Services on that. The data dashboards for police and fire have been updated that have the response times for 2025 to current. So if you would like to look on that, you can go on the city's website and check that out. Light and Power, the Bonneville Power Administration's pole relocation project, those are the poles that need to be relocated so the Maple Fern Hill and 47 intersection can begin. BPA started that pole relocation project today, so that is getting going. There's a lot of coordination that's being done with Light and Power for that. They are going to have to de-energize the adjacent substation. They're also going to have to reroute some power because that's a fairly major power line. So when they take those poles out, they will have to do some type of reroute and de-energize. None of the power will shut off, but it is going to have to be very closely coordinated with Light and Power. I'll keep updating the council as that project progresses. The pool deck is going really well. They're a little bit ahead of schedule, so that's encouraging. We got 4 proposals for the parks open space and master plan. That was proposed, and the deadline was last week. So we received 4 proposals. We'll be going through those proposals here in the coming weeks. And last but certainly not least, the Public Works facility. If you haven't had a chance to drive by, it's looking great. The new facility is for the most part done. Staff has relocated into the new facility, which is allowing the old attached facility to be remodeled. Once that's going to be done, and that's expected to be finished sometime in September, October, then the entire facility will be done and we will have a ribbon cutting. So that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Jamie, can you share? So Jamie's coming in clutch, and I think I had sent her some photos from the EMEAC trip to DC, and so she's going to share them with you all so you can see. So thank you, Jamie. I probably could have texted you too if I was like going to bail them out. Yeah, so that's Supreme Court, like after Hill Day. So they were all in their business attire. It says we left Hill Day and then went across the street really quick. And then this is our small group meeting with Congresswoman Bonamici, and Michael Skipper from CFM was there. And we were like, are we going to lobby? Are we not going to lobby? But Congresswoman Bonamici was just so gracious. She made sure that each of them got to ask a question, and she gave really thoughtful answers. I've told staff this. Her Bonamici staff came in, I think, 3 different times. Like, you have a meeting. And she was like, I'm not ready yet. So it was really, really nice. And then after this meeting, we went to dinner at the Democratic Social Club, which was like on the Hill, very close, and all very I think they had no idea who any of the people were because it's Democratic House members and senators and consultants and lobbyists. But I was like seriously fangirling. But you can't take any photos there. There's like no cameras are allowed. It was really cool. So thanks, Jamie, for that. Okay, I just have a short update. I want to swing back to the Washington County Commission, the Washington County budget meetings. A little frustrating because they have this deficit we all know about, and but very critical services that residents of Forest Grove depend on partnership and funding with Washington County. So, hey, what's going on? Like, are we and we got an email a couple weeks ago saying, hey, we're going to have a budget informational meeting for elected officials on April 23rd. And then numerous folks said, hey, we're going to go to LOC, the spring League of Oregon Cities Conference in Pendleton. So we're not going to attend. So then they changed the meeting to May 11th. And so we have a council meeting. The city of Tualatin has a council meeting. And then in addition to this, last week, Chair Harrington said we were supposed to have our Washington County Chair plus Mayor meeting today, or maybe it's not today. I thought it was today, but she canceled whichever one. Hang on, let me double check my content. Oh, so maybe it was supposed to be, hang on. Oh, no, so that's what it is. We were supposed to have a Washington County Chair plus Mayor meeting on the 11th at 3:30, but because they're having the informational budget meeting, she canceled it. So that's where we are with the budget meeting with the county. I wrote them back right away saying like, hey, this is, these scheduling things, so I don't know what they're going to do about it. I did attend the candidate, just as a community member. I just want to give a shout out to Forest Grove Indivisible. They've been hosting candidate forums. I did attend one. I attended the one for Washington County District 4 and chair race. So that was interesting. And I don't really think you guys talked about the Family Peace Center. And I just would like to thank Claudia Yakos, Evelyn Orr, Amanda, the Chamber of Commerce for hosting the city updates. And, of course, our city staff who comes in, Stephanie, Joyce, comes in and gets this place ready for the chamber, I think on short notice. So that was great. But other than that, that's all I have. So with that, and in a record, I think this is the earliest meeting I've ever chaired. I'm going to adjourn this meeting of the Forest Grove City Council. Legit think it was the earliest meeting.